Hello, welcome, and happy Tuesday, everybody. It's just a little bit after 7:15 p.m., which means we're live for another broadcast of the Cole Memo. If you didn't catch the memo, we are live every Tuesday, 7:15 p.m. Central Time, unless announced otherwise. And if you're ever wondering how to catch these live streams, I'd say the best way is to go right on over to colememo.com/live, where I try to put the links to the next live stream. And by the time you're hearing this, that link will be ready for you. I'll see you next Tuesday at 7:15 p.m. We got a great show for you tonight. I'm going to be joined by somebody who is running for Congress, which is pretty insane. It's always insane to be, joined by somebody of such high profile. So we'll be speaking to them here in a moment. We've just got a quick news story before we do that. They'll probably have thoughts on it. I hope you're all doing well. I see that comments are coming in. I've been having a great week. I'm really excited that we sprang forward. Usually I'm kind of upset about it, but I'm really excited because I'm looking forward to the spring. If you're wondering why I'm usually upset about it, I'm like, the government has taken enough from us. They're taking an hour too. That's just me trying to be funny. But I'm excited because losing an hour means we're headed towards summer, and I'm just so excited about that. So, folks, I hope you're feeling well too, and welcome to another live broadcast of
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
Once again, happy Tuesday, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the Cole Memo. I wanted to briefly cover this op-ed before I brought on our guest today. It's on marijuanamoment.net, and the headline is, Marijuana and Hemp Leaders May Have Found an Agreement on Many Significant Policy Issues. Now, I'm just going to cover this at a high level, but this is definitely interesting. And so this is by Adam Rosenberg from the National Cannabis Industry Association and Eric Berlin, who might just appear on the show in the future. We'll see if we can make that happen. They said last fall, we wrote that marijuana and hemp businesses were working together as a group informally called the Commission, which is interesting. The Commission. Today, they say we're sharing the first results of those discussions. The effort has brought together leaders from many of the most prominent marijuana and hemp industry and advocacy groups in the United States, representing thousands of businesses across marijuana, intoxicating hemp, non-intoxicating hemp, and cannabinoid innovation. And the conversation continues to mature as policymakers at both the state and federal level confront the urgent question of how to build a regulatory framework that reflects the realities of today's cannabinoid marketplace and avoids the confusion created by arbitrary legal divisions. Now, I'll paste this full op-ed in the show notes, but just to give you a brief idea of what it sounds like the Commission has come up with, it's 10 statements reflecting emerging consensus among participants. And they say that this represents a shift that moves the debate away from the competing market identities and toward consumer-centered standards. So let's read them. I'd love to hear what you think. We are live, so drop your comments. After I read these, I'm going to quickly segue to my interview with my guest. I want to hear their thoughts, but drop your thoughts and maybe we'll read them along the way. So we'll put this on screen right now. They say they are as follows. Regulating the end product versus source material, formulation, form factor, intoxicating potential, and intended use instead of just the source material. We're doing away with this hemp versus marijuana thing. They say they are just trying to determine how cannabinoid products are regulated. They're also trying to say that hemp for fiber, hurd, and grain should be regulated separately from cannabinoid production. They say there should be age restrictions and it should be restricted to adults 21 plus. They say there should not be synthetic cannabinoids. They say compounds that are not naturally found in the cannabis plant should not be marketed or regulated as cannabis products. And they say, this is interesting, and can be addressed outside of cannabis policy. So it sounds like they're saying, maybe there's a space for synthetic cannabinoids, but it's outside of cannabis policy. That's what they say. They're also saying they're trying to distinguish the distribution channels. They want consistent standards for labeling, testing, and quality control, something that we've been calling for on the show for quite some time. They're calling for federal oversight and that it should be split between alcohol and the TTB, the Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, the FDA, the USDA, based on the intended use and intoxicating potential. They want to set up interstate commerce for wholesale cannabis products. They say that should be permitted. They say licensing that states should retain their traditional role of determining the licensing structure, which I have a problem with living in a state like Illinois, but that's a conversation maybe for later. I guess those are the 10 policy positions that the commission has put forth. And it's certainly interesting because I'm not necessarily reading anything that I disagree with entirely, but I definitely have some thoughts. I'm sure you do too. It looks like we've got comments rolling in. We'll be right back right here on the Cole Memo. All right, so drop your comments below. I'm going to read them quickly, the ones that have come in, and we're bringing on our guest. It's going to be fun. Cole Cram says, what's up, Cole? It's nice to see a fellow Cole. Waylon, the indoor farmer, who check out their channel. Look up Waylon, the indoor farmer. I believe our guest was on their show earlier today. Waylon asked, are we having trouble? Because we started a little bit late. I said, no trouble. Stacy and I are just rolling up some weed. Oops, I just spoiled our guest. Waylon says he's going to pack a bong for us. He says, let's grow. Satisfied Mind says, hope my Northern Chillinois friends are staying safe tonight. Some cat on the internet, welcome. Smoking Pots and Pants says, happy Tuesday, folks. Always a favorite part of their Tuesdays. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Some cat on the internet says, like it now, subscribe for free, ring the bell. Yeah, it's free, folks. Hit the subscribe button. It really helps. My friend Cannabis Critiques here. What's up, dude? What's up? I think we gave you a shout out last week on the Two Dope Dudes podcast. All right, folks, it's time to stop clowning around. It is time to bring on my friend Stacy McCaskill. We'll be right back. All right, Stacy. Welcome to the Cole Memo. How are you doing tonight?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to my audience. I'll right off the bat, I just want to say I'm displaying your website on screen right now, and I'll have it in the show notes if people just want to click it, if that's easier. But Stacy, please introduce yourself to my audience, and please tell us what's the latest thing you're working on.
All right. My name's Stacy McCaskill. I am a hemp farmer and cannabinoid formulator. I own hemp stock farms in Woodstock, Illinois. That was my little play on words, hemp stock and Woodstock.
Love it.
And I started that in 2019. First year it was legal to grow in Illinois. I put plants in the ground. I bought our farm. Actually, this is a story. My wife is a veterinarian. She works in Crystal Lake. We were living in Rockford because I had been a full-time business professor at Rock Valley Community College for a little over a decade. And at the time I was in Rockford and she was commuting to Crystal Lake. well, we'd always drive through Woodstock, Illinois, and she drove by this beautiful farm, and it had horses on it, and she just thought it was idyllic. And her dream since she was a little girl was to live on a farm with horses and have her horses. And so she came home and she goes, "There's a farm for sale in Woodstock. I want you to come look at it." So we went and looked at it. And she goes, "Do you think we can afford it? Can we afford to do it?" And I said, "Will you allow me to become a hemp farmer?" And she said, "Yeah, okay, we could do that. I'll let you become a hemp farmer." And I don't think she had any idea what she was getting into. But that's what happened. We bought that farm. We closed on it in May of 2019. And within a week, I had something like 1,000 seedlings started.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that first year was crazy. I mean, if this all goes to, does what they do in the bed and doesn't make it, I'm thrilled for the joyride that it's been. That first year was so interesting. I'd never grown cannabis before, so I brought in a former student of mine that was a basement grower and was doing some stuff, and brought him in to help me. And we made so many mistakes. I mean, that guy didn't know how to scale. He was great at growing 12 plants, not 2,000, so that was so fun. That was a really fun year. When we harvested, we hung that hemp everywhere, in the barns, in the silo. It was in the house, all up and down the stairs. All the showers were filled with hemp. I mean, it was everywhere. And it's funny to think back on that time. But yeah, that's why I'm here. That's how I got into the industry. I always tell the story about Rachel Berry, who started the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. She's the one that got me into this industry. She walked into my office at Sauk Valley Community College. That's in Dixon, Illinois. After Rock Valley, I went to Sauk Valley and was their small business development center director there. And Rachel and her husband walked in one day to me as a business consultant saying, we want to start an organization that's going to help hemp farmers in Illinois. Can you advise us on this? And so I ended up helping Rachel set up the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. That was my dumb name recommendation. There were so many better names, but that was my big idea. And Rachel and I set up that organization. And then I kind of helped her start to set up workshops and stuff for farmers in the area so that they can learn about the Farm Bill and what it meant and what the opportunity was in hemp. And Rachel and her husband had really deep dived. They really know what they're doing. And it was great. We did workshops locally, and then we started going all over the state. And then pretty soon I was known as the leading expert in the state on the SBA side, the small business side, on hemp business models and what works, what doesn't work, how to get into the hemp industry, that kind of thing. So that's how I got into it. And I was actually headhunted away from the SBDC by a marijuana company and worked for them they had built an indoor grow. We're just starting formulation and that kind of thing. I had already started Hemp Stock Farms. Maybe I was about 6 months into that Hemp Stock Farms when I got headhunted by the marijuana company.
Was it an Illinois one? You don't have to name names, but it'd be cool.
Solcana, I can tell because they're super crooks and they went out of business.
Solcana?
Solcana.
Oh.
Yep. And it was based in where was that? Northwest Illinois. What's the it's not, I'm blanking on the name right now.
That's okay.
But anyways, yeah, so I started Hemp Stock Farms. I went to Solcana, which was they had an indoor grow that they were aggressively building out. They were in their first year of producing feminized seeds. Um, the reason I agreed to go work for them is they had an idea to create a hemp farmers cooperative, and they had an extraction facility that he had set up, an ethanol extraction. And I was super excited about that. I thought, oh, this is so cool. You know, this company, they want to do this indoor hemp grow and grow really quality hemp and flower. And then they want to support this cooperative. And Rachel and I worked so hard on that. We were so excited about getting, you know, like educating farmers and getting more and more people signed up to, you know, grow this cannabinoid hemp, and then trying to plug them into where they could get extraction done. And you know, that was so early. Like, we were still just trying to figure out equipment and how do you scale and all of that. And we were just, I don't know, I guess I was kind of naive, but we were just so excited, like these pioneers in this hemp industry. And it was all CBD focused back then. We weren't even beginning to think about getting high or smokable flower or anything like that. It was all about, I don't know, just this exciting new crop that was like healing, and that this,
Well, and if
even the CBD, the thought was we were just thinking CBD. We weren't even thinking CBG, CBN, you know, all the crazy, you know, the amazing stuff that's come out since.
well, and my thing is like, am I wrong in saying you were just looking for a way to express your love for the cannabis plant and offer a modality of, not to sound too cheesy, but healing for people? And in Illinois and in several states, there's not really an on ramp, and that's what the Farm Bill was.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Rachel's the one. I keep blaming her. She was the one that kind of sold me on the potentiality of this plant and how amazing it was going to be, and it was going to be an opportunity for rural farmers to add revenue streams.
But
And
did you
it
smoke
was
weed before that? Like, you
no.
know? No, really? You started smoking weed when you learned about the cannabis plant? Wow, that's cool. That's actually a
I
really
mean,
cool story.
I smoked, you know, like once or twice in high school. But no, not, I smoke every day now.
I was gonna say I would never have guessed that you pretty recently started consuming, because you fucking we have had a good time together. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we've had some sessions in the Cannabis.
Yes, some footage maybe that we'll have to release in the future. I was watching it the other day, but it's a really cool story, and like I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to ask that because there's a lot of contention around this particular political issue that we're talking about. I want to talk about politics at a higher level here in a moment, but I wanted to ask you that directly because it seems like the narrative often in the media is that, oh, these people in the hemp industry, they're exploiting a loophole. They're just looking for an easy way in, and it's like, I don't look at it through that lens. I look at it through the lens of the cannabis plant is still treated as a highly controlled substance in the state of Illinois and in this nation. And frankly, the legalization, I say in air quotes, of cannabis didn't make it so that people like yourself or others, many others, I should say, could actually participate in the market
Yeah.
legally. And I think the
Yeah.
most troubling thing is that actually what you're looking at, if you were to continue doing what you're doing, it's like you'd be thrown in jail just like before legalization. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, wait a minute. That seems like a huge step back. So that's why I kind of wanted to directly ask you, like, this was your only option to work with the cannabis plant.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea that the hemp industry is such a monolith that's the mistake right there. Is kind of everybody that does cannabinoid hemp, they're all the same, and had the same motivations coming into it. I, for a fact, there's a ton of people that came into it from the drug culture, from the cannabis culture, or that were street dealers and then now went legit, right? So there's that whole segment of people. There's people who were in smoke shops and that part of the industry, and then they saw that this opportunity to sell CBD and THC infused gummies and vape carts and that kind of thing, it added another revenue stream to them. So they're involved in the industry. You've got people that are kind of seed the label like me, that are more crafter kind of people. You've got people like me that, like, this was my first step into farming other than like running community gardens and that kind of thing. You've got people who were like corn soy guys that wanted just to add a revenue stream, and they didn't want to get into marketing the product. They just wanted to grow a crop and have somebody come pick it up and sell it, So it's like, it's a very diverse industry overall, and people have come into this industry at different points. So, my first contention with criticism of our industry is quit picking one little segment of the industry and saying that represents everybody. Like the people that are against it and that support the hemp ban, they keep complaining about, they just don't like seeing the Delta 8 and all that crap in the gas stations. And, that's a place that they go every day, and it's there in their face. And that's just,
now though,
they're like,
Stacy,
that's the whole industry. And it's such a fraction of it.
I agree that they started with that, and that some people still complain about that, the Delta 8 and stuff. But nowadays they're much more clear. They're like a drink like this, which is a hemp drink. I could get it mailed to my door. And just a quick plug, you can too. If you go to drinkcantrip.com/ColeMemo, you'll get 15% off, and I get 15% back, which I use to buy more of these. Anyways, though, people say that, and I'll keep that link up just for a second. People say that this product is a direct competitor with their products. I mean, because this drink, it's got 50 milligrams of THC in it. By the way, they've got lower doses if that sounds scary. But this is my style, and they'll point out and say this is exactly like a product you'd find in the dispensary, except I'm getting it delivered to my door, or I'm getting it at Benny's. I say, what's the problem? They say, well, I've spent all this money on all these regulations, and then Stacy is able to just start selling her soda at Benny's. That's unfair.
And my answer is, guess what? You can do it too. Come join me. It's warm in the pool. It's warm. Come on in. Let's go swimming. Like, just because you entered an overregulated, onerous industry, I'm sorry for that this new law kind of made that outdated. Now you can still, you still have a medical market. You still have things that you can do, that like high THC Delta 9 flower, higher percentages of the Delta 9 versus the THCA. So maybe there's certain strains you can be more creative with some of the craft flower that you grow and that kind of thing. So I think there was still a place for a marijuana dispensary, and there's still products and they still have customers to go to. But it's a new world. The hemp bill passed, and so that's the new law. And adapt to the new reality. It's a sunk cost fallacy. It's like that cost is sunk, and it's gone. You can't recover it. If you haven't recovered it already, then it's gone. It's going away. And it's kind of a big lie for these guys to say that they're not taking advantage of the hemp industry and this new industry. They're all getting involved in it. They all use the hemp-derived Delta 9 supply chain. So, nobody's taking craft-grown marijuana for smokable and extracting that and then using that distillate to infuse their gummies, just so you know. Unless they're selling it as like unless they're selling it like that, and that's a very high cost product, right?
Right. Well,
But
to
the
your point,
gummies that they're selling in the dispensary are the exact same gummies that I'm selling. They're pulling their distillate from the exact same supply chain. We share the supply chain. And the hemp industry has been a cost saver for the marijuana industry, for the formulation industry, not for the growers, but for the formulation industry, it's been a huge cost savings. And have gotten into it. A lot of them have gotten into the industry. So, my response to the comparison is it's not fair. Yeah, that sucks. You thought that you could kind of have a monopoly. You made it in the club. Congratulations. You made it. There's very few that were making it in. But I'm sorry, this new law was passed. We felt, they felt that it was going to be better for everybody. And so join us. You don't have to try to sell Delta 8, Delta 9 gummies through your dispensary. You can open up a hemp shop next door and sell it there. And you don't have to follow those regulations.
That's what I found notable. And I do want to turn the page back here in just a moment, but just to wrap up the thought, because you brought it up, when I see big players get involved, let's call them, just in case people are tuning in and haven't been watching for a while, we're talking about cannabis, and there's been an arbitrary distinction made between hemp, quote unquote, and marijuana, quote unquote. They're arbitrary terms created by by the law, and they're not based in science. And so this makes things a little bit confusing, but we're talking about cannabis, so I wanted to just be clear about that. And when big players come into the hemp space, as you were saying, Stacy, from the marijuana space, like, for example, I've seen Curaleaf, I've seen GTI, I've seen Trulieve. These are big marijuana companies that are getting involved in the space. And what I've never seen is a complaint from somebody like yourself or anybody else in the hemp industry. Basically, what I have seen is something to the effect of what you said earlier, which is like, let's see what you got. Just think that's a remarkable, notable thing to point out. I wanted to, any thoughts on that before I did peel back the page? Because you kind of covered it already, but I find that notable and wanted to underline it for my listening audience, that when people join your side of the fence, there's no complaints, but they complain when you get on their side of the fence.
Right. Yeah, and we can talk more about motivations and what's going on with the ban and all of that.
Cool.
On the other side.
Sounds good. Well, hey, I want to just plug once again, StacyMcCaskill.com. I'm going to throw it up on screen. Stacy, what is going on? What are you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm running for Congress.
Okay.
So I think, my experience with this hemp ban, that picture is actual picture. I went to Washington to lobby on this. I went to the Haifa organized fly-in day into Washington. Yeah, that's me in front of the Capitol right there. And got to lobby for a couple of days. I actually did a news. I went into the Republican headquarters there and went into their studio and did a TV interview. So I was pretty active with the Haifa group as far as like getting on media and having conversations about what's happening and the hemp ban and all that. So anyways, just from my experience with seeing how this language can be slipped in with no debate, how our laws are made, how the current two-party system is so entrenched. It's so entrenched. It's just terrible. I mean, you have to take this such an extreme position. And it's just getting more and more entrenched. It's like when people stay in these positions a long time, it just concentrates power. And the problem that we have right now is there's like just common sense nobody's sitting down and talking about common sense solutions. They're just trying to defend their deeply opposite positions, like immigration. It's like one side's like wants to completely abolish ICE, and then the other side is demonizing every migrant that's in your community, like they're all rapists and killers. It's like these are incredible extremes, and most of the country is not on either end of those extremes. They're somewhere in the middle. And in doing the hemp lobbying, I was just, it's crazy how these people don't really care to hear from you. And they already have their position that has been dictated to them through the party apparatus and through that organization. And that dictated position is pretty much decided by like 3 or 4 people, that kind of powerful coalition at the top of the party. And it just doesn't invite for new voices and new ideas and like reasonable compromise. People stepping forward and saying, wow, I didn't know that. Like, tell me more. Gosh, I totally had a wrong position on that. Have you ever heard of politicians say that they misunderstood something and they made a wrong position? Like, let's start doing that. So I think that's what's missing. And I look at I went to look at my district to say, hey, I'm going to get into government. What's going on here? Why is this so divided? And I look at my district where Bill Foster is super nice guy. I met with him. I'm not saying that he's doing a bad job or anything, but this guy has been unopposed for 12 years, not even within his own party. So all that tells me is that that's entrenchment. That's autopilot. We can count on Bill Foster. Let's keep him in power in that position because we know how he votes. We being the power, the elites at the top, why would they want new voices? They don't want new voices. They want everybody in there toeing the line, being a party champion, sticking with the team, and they don't want anybody rocking the boat. They don't want any really new ideas unless, the top agrees with those ideas. And that is not democracy. And that's why I think we're losing our democracy, is because this power is becoming entrenched. It takes huge amounts of money to get. I could buy the seat. I know for a fact I could easily buy it, and it's not even that expensive. I could buy this seat for about $600,000.
And is that like pretty well explained to you? Like, I'm not in a place where like you are, where you're like even considering that. Is that kind of explained to you? Like, and by the way, like if you're being serious about this is probably what it's going to cost to do that. Like, or did you just figure that out? Because I know you're a very smart person. We're going to talk.
No,
about
I can
that
tell
later,
you
but
exactly what that cost is. The first piece of it is collecting signatures.
Okay.
So if I wanted to run, I just want to give everybody a civics lesson on how
That's kind of why I was
Congress
asking.
works
Yeah.
and districts and that kind of thing. So senators, there's 2 senators in the state. So 2 senators represent your whole state, how populated it is. And then the House people is by population, and they make districts. And so you have a bunch of House reps and then just a couple of senators. So the senators are kind of like more powerful, and the senators have longer terms. The House reps have shorter terms. They only have 2-year terms. Now, all this was set up and designed so that these House representatives, congressmen, they are more responsive to their districts. They're only in their 2 years. So they only get elected for 2 years. So if you're not doing a good job, you're out. So it's supposed to make you closer to your people, to listen more to what your constituents think and do, and then you're accountable to them.
Pop quizzing myself. Is senators 6 years? Is that right?
Yes, senators
Okay.
6 years. Yes, good. Yeah. So you got 6 versus 2.
Right.
But the problem is right now is that once people get in, they stay in.
Right.
And the primary process that, the parties aren't real excited about allowing new candidates to beat their current incumbents. They want their current incumbents to win. They know that guy, unless they've had a problem with them and he wasn't towing the line.
Sure.
They're going to want to, I mean, that's normal, right? I mean, why not? You don't want turnover in your organization, So no turnover means no new ideas, means no new voices, means more and more monolithic, I got the blinders on, let's all follow this one way of thinking. And it concentrates power in just a handful of people that are the influencers that are at the top of that organization. And look at both the Democrat and Republican Party right now. The leaders of both of those parties have been in office 45 years. 45. We absolutely have to get term limits. Are you going to get term limits from Republicans and Democrats? They're not going to vote for term limits. I just explained to you the power of their organization is entrenchment. It's longevity. It's keeping one person in there for their whole life and making sure that they toe the line. If they don't toe the line, they're out. And Trump isn't the first person to do that. Don't think that this is first time that's happened where the party top has control over whether people stay in the party or leave the party. The Democrats do the exact same thing. They're just not as, in your face about it. So that's why I think it's super important that we vote them all out of office. We put in independence, and we have to disrupt the system in some way. We have to disrupt this entrenchment. And so what I'm saying is right now, term limits is a problem, but this getting independence onto a ballot is a huge problem, because what the Democrats and Republicans have done is they've put rules in place that makes it super easy to get on the ballot as in a major party. You only need I would only need 4,000 signatures if I wanted to run in the primary against Bill, or if I wanted to run in the Republican primary. But to get an independent added to this ballot, I need 20,000 signatures. And that's 5% of the vote instead of 1% of the vote. So I have to get 500 times more signatures than I would have had to get if I wasn't an independent. So that's just what I'm saying is I'm trying to lead a people-led movement here. My next event is on the 21st. I'm trying to get people to come on the 21st out to the Healing Center in Hempstock Farms. I am trying to raise an army of volunteers. I literally need 400 people, 500 people. If they just go sit in front of their local smoke shop for 2 hours, get me 50 signatures. Find a place, meet up with your friends and family. I mean, anybody that's hearing this, reach out, click on volunteer and on my webpage, click volunteer, fill out your information. Yep, right there. Click on that, join, and then we'll reach out to you and we'll get the petition sheets for you that you need to sign. But the way people do this to buy their way onto the ballot is you can hire professional canvassers to go door to door. I actually have maps. I did the crunching. I prepared walkable maps. I have maps for people if they want to go walk a neighborhood in Aurora or something like that. I can print out the map and give it to them. But you can hire professional canvas organizations. It would cost about $300,000. I estimated to hire a firm to send out canvassers to collect 40,000 signatures. So that's the first piece. You got to buy your way onto the ballot. And then once you buy your way on the ballot, then you just have to spend another $300,000-$400,000 on advertising. And as an independent with the current environment, I think just collecting the 40,000 signatures, I think I'll win. Bill got 200,000 votes last his last election. And if 40,000 people sign a piece of paper saying that they want to add me to the ballot, that gives me 40,000 from somewhere. And it's either coming out of his total or it's being added to well, it wouldn't even be added because they have to be registered voters to make that count. So yeah, you're well on your way just getting those signatures. So I think it can happen if we can, like, this is like an emergency, like all the hands on deck. Because the other thing that they did to make it almost impossible is they only give you until May 25th. And they just opened the period to collect signatures. So you have this very short window. I have to submit these 40,000 signatures on May 25th.
Wow.
As a deadline. And then of course they all get kicked out. They have I was just meeting with an attorney before I came on here, and to try to figure out if the petition sheet that I have for signatures is even correct. You misspell something. There was a big debate about whether the county had to be pre-printed on the petition. And so I mean, my attorney was telling me no, that it didn't have to be. And I was like, I don't know. I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said there was a new law and that it did. And then I went and talked to another attorney, and they're like, oh yeah, I think maybe you do have to have the county printed in the top corner. And then you can't have somebody that's not from that county sign that sheet. And just to tell you, like, these are the kind of hoops I believe that were intentionally added to make it exceptionally difficult to win the ballot. I was at the smoke shop yesterday, and the guy agreed to put up my signs. He said, I'll become a collection station for you. And I had a sheet out for McHenry County. We were in Crystal Lake in McHenry County. It said McHenry County on the form. And the guy customer came in. He's like, yeah, I'll sign your sheet. Yeah, he was super excited. And he went to go sign it. And I said, you do live in McHenry County, right? And he says, no, I live in Kane County. I didn't have a Kane County form with me. It has to be pre-printed at the top. You can't handwrite it. I can't cross out McHenry and write in Kane. These are the kind of very strict rules that make about half of the signatures that you eventually turn in, they will challenge those. And they have 2 weeks to go through all your signatures, and they will challenge every single one. If someone signs Johnny, but they're registered to vote as John, they throw that out. If someone's registered to vote at apartment A and they move to apartment B, but it's in the exact same street, they throw it out. So you need to collect, they say, 2 to 3 times the amount of signatures that you legally need in order to beat all of those challenges. I legally need 19,000. So our goal is 40.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to just say once again, the website will be linked in the description of the podcast. It sounds like you're looking for volunteers. So folks, if any of this sounds good, and we'll kind of close the loop on this by, in case it's not clear, some of your policy points. I'm displaying on screen right now a graphic that you shared with me. Maybe just in case people are still wondering why they might get involved. Tell us, Stacy, your specific things, that we've covered some, but yeah, just wanted to give you the space on this.
Well, I well covered restore choice. I think I made that argument here. I think most of the people that would be listening to this podcast agree with free the plant. So I am for complete descheduling, and I am a champion of this hemp industry. I want potency, purity, 21 plus, all of that. I agree with those principles that were laid out in that article. Of course we want that. We've been fighting for it in Illinois. So I'm for that kind of thing, but definitely free the plant and would like to deschedule. And I'm a huge hemp champion, and there's nobody, Rand Paul, there's very few people that are champions of these craft hemp farm, kind of industries and this hemp-derived cannabinoid industry. I will be a hard champion of this industry. So I think a lot of your folks would support that. And then for all the other stuff, go take a look at the website. I outline my issues and kind of where I stand on stuff. But like tonight, I had a quick meeting with there's a independence party that's trying to gain a foothold in Illinois, and they've got a couple of candidates that they're forwarding, that they're supporting. And I had a meeting with their steering committee tonight, and we were talking about whether I would say that I was an independence party candidate or just independent and be on my own. And even those guys, even though they're trying, like, I agree with all their principles and they're trying to be like this independent party, even they were calling me on stuff. Like, they wanted to know a very specific, what was my specific, did I support NATO? And was I specific to that? And because I supported NATO, I wasn't quite aligning with some of their values. And do I support mandatory vaccinations? I mean, these are like very complicated and very specific policy positions. And again, that's my issue. If you guys relate to this at all, what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't just come out of the box with this hard line of like, these are the things, these very specific policy positions and very complicated topics. It's kind of like the hemp. The analogy I would be with the hemp is that, I'm not going to come down hard on milligrams per container or whatever. That's where you start getting into problems, is trying to put labels on stuff and being so hard lined about what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. I think we just need more, just more common sense. Like, let's just come together and quit sitting down and thinking that the person sitting across from you is Satan and that they have some kind of evil intent. They're just trying to feed their family too. So let's get at all of our motivations where we're all just trying to be successful people, take care of our families, do whatever. Nobody's Satan incorporated. I think where Satan comes from, where this evil, I'm using that as an analogy for evil. I think where this evil comes from is when power gets concentrated, and then that institution, that power concentration becomes this big thing that's like kind of separate from individual interests. It happens with corporations. It happens with whole industries. That's why we say big pharma, and we kind of demonize big pharma, big alcohol, big cannabis. It's because this, the power, the concentrated power and the money has become so concentrated that those industries are just looking to protect themselves and to, try to establish monopolies and put up walls so that they can out-compete other people. And, we need to break those walls down to try to not let that power get so concentrated. And that's why, I'm just a big supporter of small entrepreneurs, craft businesses. Let's reduce regulations on the small guy. Let consumers figure out safety. It's just even health department laws and stuff. It's there's so much overreach and there's so much macro oversight that's just onerous. That's the problem. It's yes, you need regulation, but when regulation begins to become crushing and becomes too much and just seems ridiculous, that's when industries are driven into the dark. That's when you get black markets, is because of the onerous regulation. So no regulation, that's not good. way over regulation, that's not good. We need to find that middle space. And, you know, the globe's dynamic, technology's dynamic. What I think people are doing is dynamic. You need more kind of in the middle freedom to allow for, you know, creativity and spontaneity. And, you know, that's why we have anti-monopoly laws, is because that monopolies aren't good. They're not good for consumers. They're not good for workers.
Well, to give you
You
an easy example, the person, you know, behind this soda company said like drinks didn't get good, and they weren't even talking about their own drinks. Like they're just saying like cannabis drinks in general did not actually get good until the scale that came with the farm bill, because as you said, ingenuity, like since these, I'm saying in air quotes again, marijuana markets are so siloed and limited, so is the innovation, so is the, you know, the product, so are the products. They're limited. And so I just remember trying cannabis drinks for the longest time, and I'm not saying that there weren't a few brands that figured it out. There were, and maybe some people know who they are. I'm not going to give them free advertising, but cannabis drinks really got good with hemp. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, cannabis drinks are good. And you've seen even the dispensaries start to sort of bring drinks into the fold, because it's like they've learned lessons from hemp. It's like these are good things, but I digress. I just wanted to give
No,
you an
absolutely.
example.
I mean, the bigger these companies get, the more they have to, they can't specialize. You know, adds too much cost to the system. So yeah, I think I think the hemp industry hemp-derived cannabinoid formulators have come up with the craziest, most amazing products. And really great drinks, really great tasting like pastries. And I've had taffy and just, you know, really fun, interesting thing. And that's in the head high area, not to mention all the topicals and the soaps and the bath
Right.
bombs and the hair oils. And yeah, like Natasha Neptune and all of her like soaps and stuff. And I mean, just I could mention a million brands. There's just like such creativity at these small little shops, you know, these small little hemp farmers everywhere. We got the coolest products. And I just love the idea of having these up and down the street kind of farms, and also these up and down the street kind of little boutique, you know, smoke shops. I've really grown in my appreciation for smoke shops, I think, since this whole battle.
Dude, the fact that they're even, as the kids would say, catching strays on this is crazy, because I'm hoping that makes somebody laugh. The fact that people are talking down about smoke shops is what I mean to say is insane, because I remember going to smoke shops back in the day and having to do the little dance where we called them water pipes instead of bongs. But I always thought that as you know, because then one day we were allowed to call them bongs, and I thought eventually I would just be buying weed there too. Like it only made sense.
Yeah.
Like, and so
that's so funny. I was in the smoke shop today, and a guy walked in. He goes, "What's the price of these bongs?" And the guy goes, "You mean water pipes?" I didn't know what that was from. I didn't know that was
that's
thing.
a holdover, yeah, from
oh my gosh. See, that's how new I am to this whole culture. That's hilarious.
Well, we've
That's
got
awesome.
we've got a question from the audience, and I want to encourage the audience to drop questions as they tune in. We are live. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you as we continue to do these live streams every Tuesday, 7:15 p.m. Central Time, unless announced otherwise. ColeMemo.com/live. You can call in now if you have questions. We also have a question in the chat, and I think we've addressed it in some ways, but feel free to take a swing, Stacy.
Yeah.
The question, I'm going to read it out loud in case people are listening and not watching, is from Genetic Memory Farms, and they ask, Is the overregulation a feature and not a bug to MSOs or multi-state operators because they keep the small players out and capture the markets solely amongst those in the quote cartel end quote? Thoughts on that?
Well, I think the overregulation was the condition that they entered into. So it's I don't know what genetic memory farms means by bug. It would be great if we could bring them online and we could chat. But if you could
I've
do that,
actually said something in the past. Maybe I can try to explain. I've thought similar things like the high barriers to entry, the high licensing fees. Sure, I agree, Stacy, to your point that to a certain extent it was like a deal they made back in the day. I'm talking like specifically in Illinois, a deal that some of these medical operators made in like 2014, where they're like $100,000 yearly licensing fees and stuff. And again, as we say, you signed a bad deal. But also the deal was back in the day because the attitudes were more conservative. They felt like, okay, we make it this steep licensing fee so that it's just not anybody getting involved. You know, we're highfalutin credentialed people. I'm just trying to like speak on what I think they're saying, which is like,
yeah,
you know, some of these regulations, these operators admit actually. We had a cannabis operator on the other day. They were complaining about the wire mesh vault requirement, but they were doing it in a way I'd never heard of it because most people just complain about the cost of it and the logistics of it. They were complaining about the fact that literally the way it's structured, because they were an architect, like it just didn't even make sense. Uh, Something about like if it would have been properly, like people could break in, I guess the way that it is now. It's not like hard. It's almost like security theater, if you will. And
yeah,
so there's like examples like that where it's like high barrier. It just makes a higher barrier to entry, I think is what they're saying.
yeah. I mean, that's that. I would call it then a feature. You know, it's just that's what the system is, and people
Oh,
knew if they can get through that barrier to entry, if they could raise the capital that they needed. Did they clarify?
you know, they didn't clarify. No.
Okay.
But feel free, genetic memory farms.
It is a cartel. I mean, it is a cartel, and I like that quote unquote cartel. I mean, it is a group. The regulation creates that barrier to entry, and like Cole said, I think it comes from this idea that when we were legalizing marijuana on a state by state level and kind of trumping this federal law, right? That there was a lot of push against that. So of course, the response is we just want it. We just want it legal. We'll do it however you want us to do it. And so I think that's where all the overregulation came, is like, oh, we got to make sure it's super safe, and we got to trace it, and we got to make sure the illegal, supply chains don't feed into it, and all of that. And so of course that came very conservative kind of regulations. But as opinions have changed, I think those laws should be revised and updated instead of being more and more entrenched, because now those guys, the people that are in the cartel we spent a lot of money to get here. This is really hard. Like, we gave up a lot to get into this position, and now you want us to give it up and like go in an industry that's so easy to get into, and I don't have to do all this. It just pisses them off. And I agree. I would be pissed too, but that's now what they're going to do is they're going to try to protect, they're being entrenched. They're trying to protect. They made this investment. They want to protect it. And this is new competition that has a lot of edge on them, because we don't have to adhere to the same taxation, the same oversight. The same stupid regulations about how it's stored and where it's put, and having your parking lot have cameras. Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy. They've made it like you're going in there and, I don't know, getting nuclear material or something.
I agree. And I should just add, I feel like I would do a disservice to my own show name if I didn't bring up that one of the things that I've been told, and I haven't read the comment in, but we've got a new comment in. Stacy,
Of
if you want to
course.
peek at it, it could be something we can address. What I'm displaying right now is the Cole memo. This is the Cole memo, which was issued on August 29th, 2013 by then Deputy Attorney General James M. Cole. And there are a few conditions outlined within the Cole memo. This is why my show is named what it is. This is basically issued as guidance to federal prosecutors concerning marijuana enforcement under the Controlled Substances Act. It's a memorandum that is guidance in light of state ballot initiatives that legalized under state law the possession of small amounts of marijuana and provide for the regulation of marijuana production, processing, and sale. In other words, Colorado and Washington put it on their ballots, and then this came out. And so these are the policy conditions. I'll make them bigger. And this is why many of these companies say the companies are as regulated as they are. So you've got preventing the distribution of marijuana to minors. That's why you have the age gates, right? Which nobody disagrees on, I'll just add. But then you have these other lines where, like this line, for example, preventing the diversion of marijuana from states where it's legal under state law in some form to other states. Many people argue, proponents of a system like Illinois argue that our system achieves this goal by the limitations that it has. In other words, and I think it's true, I don't think many people come to Illinois and buy a boatload of marijuana like they do in Michigan. And I'm not dissing. I want to be very clear. I'm just pointing out, because I'm not, you know me, Stacy, I'm not a proponent of like the way we do it in Illinois.
That's a states' rights
right
thing. That's where
I
that
agree.
came out of. That came out of states' rights. And if a state has a right to ban it, then they shouldn't be flooded by marijuana from next door.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
And then there's these other ones that don't get as much airtime, but preventing the violence and use of firearms and the cultivation and distribution of marijuana. That's kind of funny because it's been aired since the very beginning that, I wouldn't say the use of firearms, but they're definitely transporting cannabis using firearms in the cultivation and distribution of marijuana and the sale. There's armed guards everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess they're achieving that goal by preventing violence. I don't know. Maybe that's how they would argue it. Preventing drug driving, preventing the growing of marijuana on public lands, preventing marijuana possession or use under federal property. I will say that the Cole memo does, in every version, because there's a few versions of the Cole memo that were issued. I believe this is Cole memo version 3, which was like the final version that ultimately got rescinded during the Trump administration. But I digress. Each version of the Cole memo did expressly say that something to the effect of home cultivation for the purposes of medical cannabis is also something that's like kind of they'll take a hands-off approach on, which I think is notable and never gets airtime. So that's why I wanted to say it. It should be better than that. Everybody should be allowed to grow. I'm just saying the goalposts have moved a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
I digress. Sorry for going on about the Cole memo. I just wanted to explain that whenever I've brought these things up in rooms of people that are in these big marijuana companies, or even some of the smaller ones, like the craft cultivators, like I had Scott Redman on from the Illinois Craft Growers Association, and he said, Cole, he's complaining about the regulations, and I asked him, like, why don't you just then like do hemp and like take the easier ones? And he did. So I'm trying to think of what I was just about to say. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Why was he rejecting not to just move into hemp? So you were saying, why don't you just go into hemp? And he's like, well,
he and another person that was on in that episode basically explained, and I think maybe this might be your response. Reese and himself put so much money into these operations But I remember what I was trying to say. Thank you. He was saying it's not like he's a huge fan of these regulations. They exist because of the Cole memo.
Hmm.
So he's like, yes, of course I put my money into this, but also we're not just doing this to fucking do this. Like, we have to do this. Otherwise the feds could interfere. That's their concern, they say.
Hmm. Hmm. It's interesting.
I thought it was interesting. It's something that Charlie Bachtel from Cresco Labs told me on the show. He was like, look, he views the Cole memo as cannabis version 2.0. He described it. He described cannabis version 1.0 as California, which is a lot like the hemp market, which is like you had dispensaries, but they were just supplied by growers in the area. And there was none of this seed to sale tracking. I mean, some people tested cannabis, but it wasn't really a thing that caught on, and honestly, and wasn't even mandated until about 10 years ago in Colorado and Washington. So cannabis testing is a very new thing. But anyways, they describe cannabis 1.0 as this kind of like Wild West environment. And they describe cannabis 2.0 as highly compliant, highly regulated, compliance focused, highly regulated, limited licensed markets. That's what they say cannabis 2.0 is. And it's because of the Cole memo. So take it all. Take it.
This is my whole response to that. My response to that is nothing bad has happened. Everybody, look around. Are there dead bodies in the street? Is child consumption of THC gummies up so much that kids are going to the hospital? Nothing happened. Look around your community. If the worst thing that's going on is you don't like seeing Delta 8 at your gas station, praise the Lord, hallelujah. Because this is what everybody was afraid of with marijuana. This is why all the regulations were put into place, is because there was fear that it's going to be too much. Like, I don't want to see a marijuana shop on every street corner. It's that kind of feeling. Like let's limit it. There should be one per community. And you did a really great report on weed deserts and enforcement of laws. Go see Coles. I want to plug that paper that you did, and that excellent reporting on all of that.
Thank you.
So please research that if you haven't seen all Cole's hard work on that. But that's that's why all those regulations was put into place, was for safety and to make sure the stuff was clean and people weren't getting sick from it and they weren't like ingesting bad stuff. Well, here we have, and the cannabis people or the marijuana people will say it, we have a unregulated industry. It's the Wild West. You can basically go do whatever you want and have all those things out there. And the most worst thing that's happening is not even cannabis related. It's that kratom extract that's so addictive. Like, that thing has been busting up, that's like probably the most dramatic negative effect that's even coming out of smoke shops and stuff. And it has nothing to do with cannabinoids.
Yeah. The thing that doesn't get much airtime. Sorry, go ahead. You're about to say so.
My point is that nothing bad happened. So forget about the marijuana industry. Just make it the cannabis industry. It's a hemp industry. It's hemp cannabinoids. It's THCA flower. If they want to keep on that stupid regulation of the 0.3% THC, so that we have to force our flower down, the THCA high and THC low. I mean, okay, whatever. But even if we didn't completely deschedule and we just kept what we're doing right now, nothing bad is happening, and so much good. There's so much upside. The access in those weed deserts that you pinpointed, the access for people to be able to get, really good medicine in those weed deserts, the ability of us to stand on, hey, this is hemp, not marijuana, when somebody tries to arrest you for having weed in your car. In that Cole memo, it talked about no marijuana on federal property. Well, I'm running for federal office, and I have video, and even today on my podcast, I talked about carrying one of Hempstock Farms THCA flower joints into the Capitol. And I shared the story about I forgot I had it in my pocket, and I knew I couldn't get into the Capitol with it, so I stuck it in a planter in front of the Capitol building. Went and did my congressional business, came back out and pulled out the joint from the planter. Now, if that is marijuana, that's illegal, but it's not marijuana. That's hemp, according to the Farm Bill. That's THCA flower. And I've got all the COAs on it to, it was labeled. I have all the COAs to prove that's hemp. That's not marijuana. So all these, these laws that are written about marijuana, I think we can start challenging them in court and say, I didn't have marijuana. That's not marijuana that you got from that's not 1.5 pounds of marijuana. That's 1.5 pounds of hemp. And this is kind of the thing. I'll give a shout out to Weed Man. Tyrone Muhammad's running for Senate senator in Illinois. Shout out to him. Here's a guy that he built his whole business on this idea of come out of the shadows. Let's sell legal weed. His brand is Weed Man. And he's got an awesome company. He's doing great things, instead of having kids selling weed on a street corner and the danger of that, and who knows what they're selling and what cartel is that coming from. And now you're legal. You're buying it from legal growers. It's coming through a proper supply chain. We have COAs on it. And Tyrone's a 21 plus shop. It's not required for us to do that, but we all do it. And, there's so much upside. Why? It's so nonsensical. The only why that you can say is to preserve entrenched power. That is the only why. Why would big alcohol support this? Why does big pharma support this? Why does big cannabis support this? Because they have entrenched power. They have investments that they've made into those systems, and of course they want to preserve them. If I was them, I'd probably want to preserve them too. That's normal. So I get it. I get why they're fighting, but people need to understand that power that corrupts, that concentration of power is corrupting, and people need to understand that. And that's why a lot of folks, hemp farmers and, small craft formulators, we are not for big pharma, big alcohol, big cannabis. We see all of them trying to shut us down and crush us. And you just have to realize they're a big giant gorilla, and they're just trying to protect themselves. So, I don't think that guy you had on from Cresco, I don't think he's some kind of evil person. I think he's just trying to preserve what he has and what he's invested, his life into.
I honestly view
can't
what
fault him for that.
And I view what he described as just making sure that we were approaching this responsibly and carefully, this issue, and that we don't necessarily give ammunition to the prohibitionists. We want to be careful about how we approach this topic.
Mhm.
And that's at least how he described it. So yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to add to your point there. No,
I like what you said about if you push it too far, you add to their. I'll give you. I'm a gay woman. I'm open about that. My wife and I have been married for 26, 27 years, something like that. We lived through a time when, oh my gosh, I remember the first time we went to a hotel, And we were like so nervous about asking for a room with a single bed. Can you believe that? I mean, it's crazy. And, so I came out of that, and I'm a Christian, and I went to a Baptist Bible college. I was a missionary in China. So, I came out in a very conservative community. So, I don't know, I forgot where I was going with my point now.
Oh, it's we were talking about pushing the envelope and wanting to like be sure not to give ammo to like the
Oh
pro-life.
yeah, to give ammo. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I know where I'm going with my point. Is that as an old, I would call myself this old, this old dyke that I am, that I still say GLBT instead of LGBTQ plus whatever, is that this whole visibility of gender identity with kind of pronouns like what pronouns do you go by kind of thing, and everybody adding that to their email or adding that somewhere, what their pronouns are, preferred pronouns. That to me is that kind of like you've gone too far kind of thing. I definitely support it. I definitely support that. I have two trans people that work for me. I definitely support people's right to identify like that and to be asked, and I think you should be polite in that way. But this kind of trend where it becomes cultural and almost is like virtue signaling to kind of add that thing, I think went too far. And it kind of, just to be, honest about this idea of pushing it, pushing that difference too hard or something. So I think what he was talking about when to make the relation to hemp and cannabis and stuff is that I think he's kind of saying if you fight too hard for these head high products, that's pushing it too much. You're going to get all the Karens are going to come out and not want you, and that's going to kick you in the face kind of deal. And that stay in your lane, stay in CBD, stay in CBG and get out of our lane kind of thing. And kind of warning us that like, if you push it too far, then it's going to bounce back and it's going to hit you in the butt, kind of thing. You're going to lose. And it's like, we see it in the other issues. You see it in the gay stuff. And now like they're trying to march back all of our rights. Oh my gosh, I hope I don't lose my marriage. These things are happening. The abortion, it got reversed. This stuff can get changed, And so I hear what he's throwing down there. And until I went down to Springfield for that War on Hemp documentary and spent some time with Big Head's shop and the shop owners, and met a bunch of smoke shop owners from Missouri. I was so impressed. To really stop and get to know some of these homegrown kind of smoke shops that have popped up. They really have a mission. I mean, a lot of them are really, some are super into culture, marijuana culture and that kind of thing. But a lot of them are providing this like tremendous access to veterans, to people that don't have the wherewithal to drive 2 hours to go grab cannabis somewhere at a dispensary that's not in their neighborhood. Education. I think you get more education in some of these smoke shops than you'll ever get at a dispensary. Just telling you about the different cannabinoids and how they can be used and how to consume and what to watch out for and all of that stuff. These smoke shops, I just saw that they were doing such good work. And so it made me feel like, why are we demonizing the head high part of it? Like it's like back to the Seinfeld line when Jerry was wearing this ruffly shirt and somebody's called him gay, and he's like, I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And that's kind of how I feel about the head high stuff. It's like, You know, I don't get high. Not that there's anything wrong with that, like I don't get high, but there's not, I'm totally support your right to get high. There's nothing wrong with getting high, So I wish we could get more to that stage where like I don't get high, but there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting high. Like why do we stigmatize getting high as like such a terrible thing? Like it's bad for you. It's you become lazy. You can't have a conversation. I mean, a lot of people think better when they're high. A lot of people are more motivated when they're high. A lot of people are nicer people when they're high. They're in less pain and less reactive and less responsive. I don't know. It's just, I hear that warning of like, don't go too far. I mean, people even tell me with my congressional run, it's like, be careful. I know you're advocating for descheduling. You're an open cannabis consumer, but it is still a federally illegal product. Don't be like consuming cannabis on camera. And again, my response would be, this is not cannabis, it's hemp. At least until November 11th.
Yeah.
And then in November 11th, maybe we'll be a little bit more conservative about
Sure.
on camera consumption. You might even have to change what you do, Cole. I don't know.
We won't change. We'll never change. No, but I mean, we didn't discuss it at the top of the show. Maybe this is a good way to wrap. It's interesting to see that there's a commission.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They've this is apparently a group of hemp and marijuana people, all cannabis, but they've come up with these proposals, and I just keep hearing people say that this whole thing in November may not happen, and we've seen it happen time and time again. I mean to say, where it's like, oh, Texas, the state of Texas is about to ban hemp. Illinois is about to ban hemp. They just passed this bill through the Senate, with only one no vote. They're about to ban hemp, and then guess what? Didn't happen. And you don't see, like, I've even seen, I think, an article today, some state they're suing for, to sort of undo parts of a ban. It's interesting. I think it was Ohio. What are your thoughts about the commission, and do you really think this thing in November is going to happen? Because I know that you've been hearing about an extension, and that apparently there's been no talk about like what regulation looks like. It's just like, can we get this extension? And I understand that to a certain extent, but it seems like this group is coming up with like, we have to see the legislation, obviously, but these seem to be like high level concepts that many people agree on. The 3-pillar approach: interstate commerce, deschedule. What are your thoughts? Have you even heard of this before?
I didn't. I have to go read that article.
Yeah.
And I was taking notes as you were running through that. I don't think any of those are new things. Those are all things that Illinois Hemp Growers Association was talking about for a long time. Like,
True.
we want to write a bill and get that passed. Like that's there ain't nothing new there. Of course, fiber and seeds should be separated from cannabinoid hemp. There should be 3 separate sets of regulations. The one has absolutely nothing to do with the other one.
Right.
So, so like, I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff in there. It's like, it's all reasonable. It's not like they came to some, here's some big ahas. I mean, I don't think those are so groundbreaking kind of things. Now,
Right.
I hope that, the legislators will decide that that's a good thing and will come to the table and reverse that ban. That would be awesome. But my views about it is I've not seen anybody tell me, and there's lobbyists talking, and nobody said that there's any kind of agreement on extending the ban. And if I'm wrong, somebody tell me who they've heard from, because I've talked to smoke shops, and the smoke shops are like, oh, nothing's happening. It's going to get overturned, or they're going to change it somehow. And their whole defense was my distributor, and they're big guys. They're big MSOs. They, they know what's going on. They're telling me it's for sure not going to happen. And I'm
Well,
like,
so it is interesting to
duh.
see like GTI is still pedal to the metal making these hemp drinks. They just signed a 3-year deal with the United Center. I don't know about you, but this November is not 3 years away. You also see Trulieve just released a press release where they're partnering with like Anheuser-Busch and some really big alcohol distributors they're continuing to expand their hemp drink line.
That's
You
drinks.
also though have Curaleaf backing out all of that. So I'm not trying to say that like everybody's getting in still, but I do think it's notable. What do you I mean,
I
I
think
really
drinks,
thought the GTI drinks 3-year deal in the United Center, that means
drinks is going to get a carve out. Drinks
okay.
is a carve out. And what I'm trying to protect is the American hemp industry, not the end products. The end products, it's like all this, of course, they're going to get the beverage people are going to get a carve out. When I went to lobby, I was paired with 2 big beverage people. They both came from big alcohol, by the way. And they know how to do this distribution and how to do it. They're experts at this. They are going to get a carve out. That's for sure. Everybody said that. So of course they're making gambles that carve out's going to go through, but they don't need an American hemp industry to keep making drinks. You can import from China CBD isolate and you convert it to Delta 9 and then you infuse that into your drinks. That's how they're going to do it. But that doesn't help American hemp. That doesn't help me. That doesn't help people growing CBD and wanting to make topicals and that kind of thing. It like completely, a carve out is possible, but they need to change the definition of the new law. I think they're just going to carve it out. They're not going to change anything. The law is about, that's an end product kind of carve out. They don't need I think they're going to be able to, it'll be through marijuana, basically like being a licensed marijuana formulator. The only reason I've heard that there will be a carve out is money behind it. Yeah. They're big guys. I mean, these are big investments, drinks are really hard, and alcohol's it's heavily regulated too. And it's hard to get distribution. And I mean, it's these industries it's interesting. I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
but I don't think it's going to happen. What I was going to say, I remember just because I was smoking here a minute ago, was that these smoke shops are telling me, no, my big guys are telling me the things are going good. Nothing's happening. Well, of course they're going to tell you that. They don't want you to stop buying from them. They want to get rid of inventory. They want to finish up. The big thing would be to me, like, who's developing new CBD products right now? Who's developing new hemp-derived THC products? I don't think a lot of people are gambling on that. And so, if you're talking to people at the close to the consumer at that supply chain, some folks don't even know it's happening. Like, I've walked into so many smoke shops and the employees, they've never heard of this. They have zero idea. And I look around, I go, where's most of your revenue come from? And they said, from this flower. And I'm like, you're out of business. You better start looking for a job. And that's why these smoke shops don't tell their employees. And then the supply chains, they only talk rosiness to their customers saying, oh, it's going to get extended. It's going to get extended. Just keep doing business like you do business, because they're wanting to capture that last bit of thing. Now, I came out in the very beginning, as soon as this passed in November, I told all my employees, I explained it to them. We told our customers, we didn't like the sky is falling, but we told them, we're here. We're going to make everything that we make for you up until this ban. We're not scaling back, and we'll be here. So please keep buying from us until you're not allowed to buy from us anymore. So we've asked our customers to support us to the end. But another strategy is to not do that. Pretend that there's something brewing, that this is going to get reversed, and tell everybody everything's fine, and then that way, you know, you won't slowly, it won't be a slow die, you know, you won't slowly lose your customers. It's really is just a product, you know, like a product management, employee psychology, you know. So when people tell me, oh, I've heard something's happening, I heard that they're going to reverse the ban, I'm like, I think you're in a little bit of denial, or somebody's doing a psyop on you.
Gotcha. Well, Stacy, it's been a pleasure speaking with you tonight. We're gonna wrap, but I want to have you back on because we didn't talk about a few things that I wanted to talk to you about. So I'm gonna reach out to you about that.
Right on.
Your work in China and stuff like that. I wanted to talk to you about that. So, but before we go, I'll just reiterate. We've got the link on screen and in the show notes, if that is whichever is easier for you, if you want to get involved. Stacy, did you want to say anything before we wrap up? The floor
Nope,
is yours.
just thanks for having me on. If anybody listened to all this, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you, and be good to each other.
Well said. And thank you, by the way, again, for coming on, and, you know, just for getting involved, because not everybody does that, and that's cool. So I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you get the support you need, and I hope that this helps out however that may look, and just keep in contact. Please, you got my contact info, and
I'm putting your every Tuesday down. I'm gonna pop in every Tuesday, and
please, we take callers. We didn't get
what's
any
going
tonight,
on.
but feel free to. It's this, like, the way you joined tonight, Stacy, is how you join, and it's pretty easy
Cool.
to join, right?
Yeah, that was super easy. You
Yeah,
guys should do it.
Yeah, thanks. And so thank you for joining me, and folks, I really hope you found value in this conversation. Once again, check out the link. Support Stacy if you know, you were down with the message. So we'll see you, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum. I mean, you have to respect the memo.